Coming at you live from my house, here's Late Night with the Devil. K-Dogs Movie Review. Late Night with the Devil is directed by Cameron and Colin Cairns and stars David Dastmalchian. Dastmalchian plays a 70s late night talk show host who's struggling in the ratings and will do whatever it takes to get to the top. This movie looked pretty interesting to me. I hadn't seen the trailer, but I had seen some stills, and Dastmalchian is a great actor. He's been in so many great movies, but I don't think I've seen a movie with him in the lead before. So I was interested. I love horror, I love the 70s aesthetic, and this looked different. It wasn't your typical possession movie, set in this talk show host setting. So I was interested to see what they could do with that. So I plopped my ass down in the theater and saw this last night. And I gotta say,
So attractive one day, not attractive the next.
Have you come across this?
Yes, I am familiar with this syndrome. She's a two-face.
this movie is a decently fun time. It's certainly not perfect, but it's not bad either. It's always refreshing to see a generic horror trope, demon possession movie like this one, done in a creative way. Here we're basically given a mockumentary. This movie presents itself as archival found footage from a fictional live television broadcast from the 70s. I'll start with my positives. Dastmalchian does a phenomenal job as a late night talk show host here. He's really got that phony television host tone down perfectly. You feel the desperation in his voice to get to the top of the ratings. And when we shift into horrific or melodramatic scenes, he executes that shift very well. He felt authentic. Great lead role. The rest of the cast is great here too. Everyone is putting on a very charismatic performance, as they should be. It really did feel like I was watching a late night talk show. In particular, Ian Bliss, who plays the demon skeptic, was hilarious. Very entertaining to watch. I loved listening to his justification for the horrific moments and his disdain for certain people. Ingrid Torelli, if I'm saying that correctly, the demon girl, was also very spooky. The camera would often just linger long enough on her face to give you that uncomfortable feeling without going overboard. She nails the girl who feels a little off vibe. As I said, this does really feel like you're watching an episode from that time period. The costumes, the quirky music from the live band, the bickering between the host and the sidekick, the audience, it feels real. They fill the screen with film grain and color corrections and twist the audio to simulate older microphones. The production was well done. There are some great practical effects here too, which I was surprised to see. However, there are some CG moments as well that kind of took me out of it when everything else felt really real and grounded. But I didn't really find the movie scary at all. I never was on the edge of my seat. Scenes were fun to watch as a horror fan, and the characters are decent, but this movie didn't really leave an impact on me at all, which I think is what an effective horror movie should do. It honestly did feel like watching a talk show or YouTube clips from one. You're flipping through the channels, or you come across one in shorts or your recommended page. Maybe you watch a few minutes, and then you switch to the next thing. It's not boring, but it's not super engaging either. You don't really seek it out. And this is where my biggest problem is with this movie: the story. This movie really feels the need to explain a lot. In the beginning, we are thrown a ton of exposition. Literally a voiceover detailing a lot of information about the backstory of the talk show and some of our characters. It went on way too long for me, and some of the information would have been way more effective as a reveal later on in the movie. Even throughout the film until the very end, things are overly explained. This movie sits at about 90 minutes, and it feels like the exposition really takes its time to pad on to the runtime. This movie might have been more effective as a short film, honestly. The premise is great, watching the footage of these horrific moments captured on this live show. But it's very hard to tell a full story within that format effectively, so we are given extra information during these commercial breaks that occur. These moments really took me out of the experience and felt like a reset button, because when we're deep in the taping of the actual show, I was loving it. The script also leaves very little interpretation to the audience. Our own imagination is where horror shines. It unfortunately felt like the writers thought the audience might be too lost without being explicitly told what happens. Also, the horror that does happen, while decent, isn't necessarily unique in any way. It's presented in a unique format, this talk show, but the things that transpire aren't necessarily creative. There was one subtle moment with a character's voice that changed, and I went, oh, that's spooky. But beyond that, it's typical possession stuff. So overall, I had an okay time with this. It's fun being presented in a talk show format, and even when the horror kicks in, it gets a little campy, which fits the TV show tone, even though I don't know if that was intentional. But the over explanation of everything and the breaks and the tension ultimately made this not scary. I left disappointed, not because I had a bad time, but because I was really looking forward to this and wanted that horrific dread to stick the landing, which for me, unfortunately, it didn't. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie in the comments below. Did you find it scary? Did you appreciate being told all of the backstory? Which horror movies are you looking forward to next? Till next time.